rising. I'll show you an army worth fighting. Cause we don't take nothing lying down low, no. We bet teeth and skin ready for biting. So point me in every direction. In the prize I can see my reflection. Cause we can take everything you got and spit it right back. Cause we're ready for action. Take aim and fire up. Smoke's rising higher. You know your time's up. We won't back down for nothing. Take aim and fire up. Smoke's rising higher. You know your time's up. We won't back down for nothing. Cause we're invincible. No, we won't be shut out. Won't take this lying down. Hey, it won't save you now. Cause we're invincible. No, we won't be shut out. Won't take this lying down. Hey, it won't save you now. Cause we're invincible. Take aim and fire up. Smoke's rising higher. Take aim and fire up. You know your time's up. We won't back down for nothing. No, we won't be shut out. Won't take this lying down. Hey, it won't save you now. Cause we're invincible. No, we won't be shut out. Won't take this lying down. Hey, it won't save you now. Cause we're invincible. No, we won't be shut out. Won't take this lying down. Hey, it won't save you now. Cause we're invincible. No, we won't be shut out. Won't take this lying down. Hey, it won't save you now. Cause we're invincible.
After months of speculation, it is finally time to usher in a new era of stock car racing. For a venue that's hosted the Olympics, it's never seen anything like this. NASCAR and iRacing have collaborated on this project to bring this quarter-mile short track to life. The Clash is always the first taste we get into a new season of NASCAR. This is the first time we're going to be able to see the next-gen car compete under the green flag. Even the drivers are seeing some winds of change, with 9 brand new names to the Coke Series lineup this year in a roster that's oozing with talent. The time for talk has come to an end. It is time for our eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series Gladiators to enter the Coliseum.
Live from iRacing's virtual Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the kickoff of the 2022 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series season. This is The Clash. We're happy to have you strapped into the virtual seat and along for the ride with us for a 13th season of eNASCAR action. As always, so happy to be joined myself, Evan Crisocco, in the broadcast booth. Happy to introduce, though, my booth partner for the 2022 campaign, Blake McCandless, is going to be joining me upstairs every week. Blake, happy to have you as a part of the team, and I think no real better way to get kicked off than with a really exciting race here tonight.
Absolutely, Evan. I am so looking forward. Thank you for the warm welcome into the booth, everybody at iRacing eNASCAR, for the opportunity. Grateful to be here. And like you said, Evan, I don't think we could kick it off any better than starting out the LA Coliseum tonight.
You almost qualified into this series, so it's good to know that we're a decent enough fallback for you. But you'll be able to give us some great driver insights, of course, as we go over the course of the season. No points on the line, but I think there is still a lot to learn tonight. First time seeing these next-gen cars on the surface.
Absolutely, Evan. You think about, this is a season of firsts for this series. You think about some drivers like Ray Alfala and the like that have been around for 10 years driving the Gen 6. They were even around in the Car of Tomorrow days, but this is the first major shift we've seen in this series in a long time. And with all the parity we had in 2021, and we're promised more parity from the engineering side, the setup side with these next-gen cars, I think it makes this the most anticipated season we've had in a long time.
The third era of race car we'll see here in eNASCAR competition. The third member of our broadcast team will be joining us down from the pit lane all season long, and that is James Pike, who will be joining our 2022 broadcast team. James, happy to have you as well.
And a good evening to all of you from sunny Los Angeles, where it's a little bit warmer than it is in Charlotte, about 15 degrees by my count. But regardless, should be a lot of fun here. All new cars, so many different storylines we can talk about, and a new racetrack to kick off this 2022 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series season. The Clash at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, right in the heart of LA, next to the campus of USC. Officially, it is a quarter mile, but the biggest thing I think we need to note about this circuit, there actually is some banking to it, 2.5 degrees all the way around. It's not entirely a flat track, though it looks that way just to the naked eye. So a little bit of banking for these drivers to lean on might be useful for some of these folks when we get towards some of the later races of the evening.
Well, it's going to be a super unique challenge. Of course, we talk about how some of the veteran drivers, Blake, have so many years of experience, right, throughout different eras of car and whatnot. But again, this racetrack is not only new, but it's not like anything we've ever seen, right? I mean, we're going to have new tracks on the calendar. We'll have Nashville Super Speedway later this year. That'll be a first for this series, but at least there's some comparable notes to some of the other tracks. There really is no basis for a track inside of a football stadium, right? It's not a D-shaped oval. It's not a quad oval. It is absolutely 100% unique. And today, of course, an opportunity to get a sneak peek of what you'll see Sunday with the NASCAR Clash to kick off the real season.
Well, and Evan, that's the biggest thing, is that driving this in real life has made me look forward to that. And this is the format we're going to use here at the LA Coliseum tonight. 4 heats, 25 laps. The top 4 from each of those heats will advance into our feature later on tonight. Of course, we have the Conti coming up after that, 50 laps, and your top 6 will advance. So we'll take 16 from the heats, top 6 from the Conti to make up 22 drivers for 120 laps here in our main event. Fixed setup tonight, Evan, so team's not having to worry about. They can focus on Daytona for now. They haven't had to worry about finding speed here. It's just all been about that lap time.
I think patience is going to be a big thing as well, right? I mean, that's not a long main event, 120 laps tonight, but it's certainly got some distance under it. One thing we were talking about, Blake, pre-race was that this track is really fun and challenging alone. I think etiquette, though, going to be the big question when you get all these guys out there at the same time.
Absolutely. I mean, you're having to lift almost in the middle part of the straightaway. You're running in high gear, and we've heard many drivers talking about both in the virtual and real world about the shorter sidewall of these tires and how that comes into play. These cars are really difficult to drive at a small track like this, but like you said, etiquette is going to be the name of the game. How are you going to pass without making contact here? I could tell you there's not really a lot of room to make that happen.
Well, and even at the big Daytona International Speedway, etiquette was always a question in the class, so we'll see how it is here tonight. Another thing that you can get engaged with tonight is scan that QR code, bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That's how you can get all the information on this eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. Stay in the loop as we embark in 2 weeks' time on our 18-round championship as, again, we look to crown a champion here in the 13th season of this eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. It all starts tonight, though. No points, no payouts. It's all down to bragging rights. So to get things underway, let's hand things off to iRacing Executive Vice President Steve Myers for the most famous words in motorsports.
Let's kick off the 2022 NASCAR season. Drivers, start your engines.
And let's take a look at your Coca-Cola starting grid for the Clash at the Coliseum. We'll introduce you to all of the new teams, the new names, and everybody as we go through the field tonight. And Vicente Salas is on pole for this one. He'll be joined by Michael Conti on the outside of the front row. So Williams Esports and Junior Motorsports 1-2, Steven Wilson and Cody Bias on row 2, Brian LaPrade, Garrett Lowe, your top 6.
They make out the first 6th, 7th goes to Michael Guest, a longtime veteran of this series. Zach Novak, champion a couple years ago, as well as Derek Bordeaux. You see the E-Racer colors, a rebrand from Kligerman Sport. Landon Castle and Parker Kligerman's venture there, as well as Taylor Hurst. Coming back in a return effort with Team Dillon.
The 10 cars lined up and ready to go racing in heat race number 1. Again, we touched on it when we looked at our Asus race analysis. The top 4 drivers from each of these heat races will advance automatically into the feature race a little bit later on. The bottom 6 will get sent down to that big and wide open LCQ consolation race, which I'm pretty confident nobody wants to find themselves in.
No.
We talk about the driver pairings, we talk about the team pairings, grading position in qualifying for these heats was set by single car queues, so Vicente Salas was the best of them all with a 13.727. That's how he gets pole for heat race number 1. I mean, 13-second lap times will go to show you, 25 laps is a healthy number for a heat race, but it is not going to last long.
No, it is not, and especially if you're one of these drivers that's on this outside line. I know James Pike alluded to it earlier, Evan, that there is banking here. I can tell you, as someone who's driven this track, it doesn't feel like there's banking. There's almost negative banking. It feels like in some ways that you're leaning the wrong way. This track feels very flat, and that outside line very seldom is going to be the place where you want to put your race car.
You can see they're double up and are ready to get going. All the drivers will have identical somewhat schemes, so you can tell who's at what car and what team. But the pace car is down and in. The green flag flies, and we are racing for heat race number 1 inside the LA Coliseum. It's a good jump for Vicente Salas. He defends the race lead early, and your top 5 quickly single file out.
Well, and one driver that I was talking about, you didn't want to be on that outside line. Bias 5th to 8th in the first lap, and only had a little bit of contact back there to make it happen as well.
Still more beating and banging further on down the road. Brian LaPrade tucked in line. He is currently 4th. He is the bubble driver as they sit right now. LaPrade, interestingly enough, his spotter in the race here this afternoon. Former NASCAR Cup Series driver Anthony Alfredo. We talk about all of those real-world to sim connections, and Brian LaPrade doing a good job right now representing Junior Motorsports, of course, the Dale Earnhardt Jr.-owned team here on iRacing, and in the real-world NASCAR Xfinity Series. You can see he's keeping the pressure on Steven Wilson, not wanting to drop too far back, but not a ton of urgency right now. He's got a bit of a buffer back to Michael Guest and Garrett Lowe, the first 2 drivers on the outside.
Well, the one thing that LaPrad's going to want to see is whenever you get side by side here, as you can imagine, Evan, not a lot of space. The lap times slow down significantly. So you have to be smart here. You look at Michael Conti, his Junior Motorsports teammate, just a couple of rows ahead. Conti may just be good to settle down here in second as look off the back of Vicente Salas. And Evan, looking at Vicente Salas and that William Esports group, I can't think of a younger pairing in the garage that has so much potential in this series between Vicente Salas and, of course, Donovan Strauss, his co-partner there.
Oh, there's a look on the board to the left-hand side with Vicente. We saw him have some really remarkable performances last year, finding victory lane. And, we talk about how there's so much turnover in this series, right? Nearly a quarter of this field are rookies in 2022. It wasn't that long ago that Vicente was in that rookie class. I mean, as we ride on board here with the PlaySeat onboard camera, you can't really wait until you're 4 or 5 to consider yourself a vet anymore, Blake. 2-3 years in, you have to be a vet. Let's ride with Vicente Salas. Here's a look at Michael Guest as he has slipped down to the number 6 position in the running order. And one thing I picked up right away there, Blake, on the onboard was the sound of these next-gen cars. There's so many changes that we'll talk about, right? The independent rear suspension, the sequential transmission, single lug wheels, this and that. But one thing that you tell right away is that sound.
Well, and I think from a lot of what fans and drivers have said, there's a growl to these cars. There's kind of a low-end bass sound to these machines. And, of course, here in the sim, you can hear it echoing off the walls here at the Coliseum. I will have to say, though, I know you were mentioning just before we got started, unfortunately won't be able to attend. You got some work duties to attend to. But I think you may want to wear some ear protection and then some if you're going to sit in here, because these cars sound amazing, but they are loud.
Yeah, the open roof here at the Coliseum will certainly help things out, but you're right, that sound's going to bounce all over the place, and it'll be a real fun show if you're in the LA area and have a chance to get over there. 3 p.m. local time, 6 p.m. Pacific, or 6 p.m. Eastern time, I should say, Sunday for the Busch Light class at the Coliseum live on Fox to kick off the NASCAR Cup Series campaign. Pretty calm, all things considered. You saw the wave there as we ride on board with Steven Wilson. He is still in the green, running in third. We saw a lot of people slipping and sliding, dropping down the running order, Blake, on lap 1. You explicitly pointed out the drivers on the outside who lost a couple of spots right off the bat. Since then, though, pretty calm. There's a look at Michael Guest in the Batcave as he rides still in P6.
Well, it just seems like once you lose the handle of these race cars, it's really hard to get it back, and it's a little bit different than the Gen 6 where, again, these drivers have so much experience. But you look forward right there, right in front of Michael Guest, that battle for that final transfer spot. Garrett Lowe slowly working over Briar LaPrade, a little bit of contact. They'll go side by side, and Lowe pushes his way through with 5 to go.
And now did he leave too much time, because Briar LaPrade has an opportunity to fight back. Taylor Hurst watches on from 7th. Both he and Michael Guest would love if 4th and 5th could continue to change blows, give them a chance to join the party. Don't think it's going to happen, though, and this is the battle for 5th on back. LaPrade tried to get back to the rear bumper there of Michael Guest, wasn't able to make it happen, so LaPrade allowing Lowe to run away right now inside of 3 to go.
Well, that's exactly what you don't need to have happen, is to get side by side further back here in the pack. LaPrade, Lowe just has so much pace right now. He caught him from about a second back and is slowly pulling away. The best thing LaPrade can hope for, though, that number 10 Storehouse Esports machine of Steven Wilson, if maybe he can run into an issue, and it can happen so suddenly in these cars. But the white flag is out, not a whole lot of time left to make it happen.
Cruise control for Vicente Salas, much like he did at Richmond last year. He has led every single lap in this opening heat race. The Williams Esports Toyota driver wins in heat race number 1. Michael Conti second, Steven Wilson third, and Garrett Lowe, with that inside of 5 lap to go bump and run, takes the transfer spot away from Brian LaPrade, who finishes 5th. The rest of the running order will round out with the likes of Michael Guest, Taylor Hurst, Zach Novak, Cody Bias, and Derek Bordeaux. Those drivers all headed to the consolation. Worth noting, they fought aggressively all the way to the end. That's important because even if you're not in a top 4 transfer, your finishing spots in these heats will dictate your starting position for the LCQ later on. So LaPrade misses out, but he'll have a real good opportunity to race his way in a little bit later on. So with heat race number 1 in the books, first 4 drivers have punched their ticket into the main event. Let's take a look at your Coca-Cola starting grid now for heat race number 2. So your second fastest overall qualifier, Jimmy Mullis, gets the top billing spot for this one. He'll lead us to the green flag alongside the number 43 machine of Colin Keister. Then Bobby Zelensky will line up alongside Casey Kerwin on row number 2. Logan Clampett representing William Byron Esports once more will start from 5th with Ray Alfala's JGR Toyota in P6.
Can we not just glance over the fact that Casey Kerwin has a unannounced number change tonight? 95 Kachow is what I'm sure he's saying right now. So Casey Kerwin, same team, but different number in the 95. Of course, you have your champion 2 years ago, Nick Ottinger, Kyle Peddle, Femi, and a teammate in Nick Shelton representing Clint Boyer Racing there in the back. And there you have it, a little bit of a change. And, you know, I think that's a request, Evan, that probably came from the driver. And I think XSET was able to deliver on that promise.
I would not be at all surprised if that was in Casey's contract that he wanted the 95. Again, this is the second of 4 heat races. We already saw the top 4 for the first one to race themselves into the feature. We're going to do the same here once more. We saw more passing lap number 1 than we did for the rest of the race. We did see a bump and run. That's what it took for the final transfer spot. But overall, pretty clean first heat race. We'll see if these drivers can continue to play nice. Of course, there's a couple of teammates in this one. Bobby Zelensky and Ray Alfala, both of the Joe Gibbs Race It entries are in this heat race, so could be important to look out for those two if they opt to work together. Also a pair of the Clint Boyer Racing Fords towards the rear with Olot and Shelton. Barney drops the green. We're racing in heat race number 2.
Kerwin going to get down and protect that 4th spot. He'll shove the 18 out of the way, though. Up the track goes Bobby Zelensky, and that's how you got to get it done. Kerwin, apology over the radio. Not sure how kindly Zelensky would take to that, though.
It cost Zelensky a lot. He slides all the way down to P5. Logan Clampett was able to make the pass on him. So Clampett now the bubble driver as the number 97 machine sits in 4th. Clampett's also got his teammate Nick Ottinger behind. So 3 sets of teammates in this 10-car heat. As you can see them going below that white line. They kind of got those cups carved out of the asphalt, Blake, down underneath that white line. Very similar to what you would see on the side of the freeway, right? You go over the yellow line, you feel that kind of bump and rumble. I think they try to encourage these drivers to stay above it, but most of the time down in turn 1 and 2 and down in 3 and 4, these drivers are getting right up against the inside fence. It makes it awfully difficult for somebody to get a position underneath anybody without a bit of a touch.
Well, and each driver has a little bit of a different approach. I know personally, you kind of want to put your left sides there. You can't run entirely down there because you get too close to that inside wall, and if you hit that, well, obviously you're going to damage your car and go a lot slower. A change up here, though, going on for second. Casey Kerwin able to go on by as we go on board with Kerwin. And the one thing I'm looking at here, Evan, look how much he's turning that wheel. I mean, the wheel's upside down by the time he's center corner and trying to get on the throttle to hit the exit.
Well, one thing we've heard a lot about these next-gen cars, right, is the steering. That's something that a lot of drivers gave feedback on over the course of its development, and you know, you might have to give it a little bit more than you would like. Of course, it's such a tight radius, right? Tighter than any other radius, even tighter than a place like Martinsville, where you got a little bit more of a wide and evenly distributed arc. You can see your race leaders working around Nicholas Shelton, his Clint Boyer Racing teammate, Femi Olat got into him, spun him out, so he's a lap down. There's a look at Colin Keister. We talk about some of the new team affiliations joining the series here in 2022, and Keister picked up by the Charlotte Phoenix, piloting the number 43 Toyota this year. He's in a good spot right now, running third.
He certainly is, and what a lineup that Charlotte Phoenix has for them this year. You think about Graham Bolin was able to defeat Mitchell DeYoung on a road course of all places, nearly made the championship for last season, and, you know, as someone who worked with Colin Keister getting up there, this race, Clampett just got absolutely sent into turn one. That was for a transfer spot as well.
Logan was in fourth, and it's not done yet. Kyle Peddle now also going to move Logan Clampett out of the way. They are beating and banging. Let's ride on board with Nick Ottinger with the Logitech onboard camera. And a caution flag in heat race number 2. It was full-on war for several laps there, and that was the onboard perspective from the 25 Nick Ottinger with Bobby Zelensky to his outside. That was a battle for the transfer that will have to wait. Femi Olat was the driver turned around after contact with Logan Clampett, so Femi's had a bit of a rough start to this one, and clearly a lot more aggressive driving than what we saw in the first heat. But let's take a second look at what has us under the first yellow of the night.
Let's see right here. You see wiggling out of the 79 of Femi Olat, and Clampett had been used up a little bit earlier, and I just think he wasn't going to be very patient, and of course turned around there in a dangerous situation. And I think Mullis, the leader, he may have caught a piece of that. Car looks pretty clean though.
Yeah, that could have been bad. Mullis had no idea. I talk about the tight radius of these corners. Like, you can't see when you're in turn 1 what's happening in turn 2, because that's only 15 feet up the road and 45 degrees to your left-hand side. So that's where a driver using triple monitors or VR goggles would certainly have an advantage, because they can glance to see a little bit further out of the corner. But certainly I'm sure the spotters were letting him know, look out, and I think both he and Kerwin barely avoided contact. So they stay clean. They'll line up side by side on the front row for a restart with 5 laps to go. It's still heat race number 2. Mullis clear for the top position. Side by side for third. Keister around the inside of Bobby Zelensky.
Well, the battle's going to be right with Nick Ottinger. He's going to get side by side with Zelensky. They brush off the corner. So we get a good look at Logan Clampett right here. This is directly behind that transfer spot. And look at Clampett's car. I mean, that thing is completely destroyed from that huge send he got from Bobby Zelensky a little bit earlier. They're single file for now, but again, I think Ottinger may have a shot here at Zelensky.
And now Bobby Zelensky is the one feeling the pressure. He is in the bubble. This time by, coming to 2 laps to go. And Nick Ottinger, a warning shot that time in 4. How can Zelensky shake the 25 who's plastered on that rear diffuser? Car length of a difference this time. Down the back, straight away, ascend. Zelensky holds it though. He'll move Keister at the white flag.
And Keister, big shot from behind from Nick Ottinger. Zelensky gets sent, and oh boy, it's going to get good here in turn 3.
Zelensky gets away with third. It's Keister in fourth. There's a lot of contact. He slides side by side. He spins. And Nick Ottinger will steal transfer spot number 4. Keister will coast backwards to a P8 finish in his heat race. And through all of that chaos, Jimmy Mullis, Casey Kerwin, and Bobby Zelensky finish ahead of all of it. There was no guarantee that Zelensky was going to even get that far. He makes the show, and then Ottinger beats out his William Byron Esports teammate Logan Clampett for the final spot. That'll send Alfala, Petal, Keister, Olot, and Shelton to the last chance qualifier. And so much happened in a quarter of a mile. Let's watch that final lap again. Of course, they're all hunting for the 43 car in third, Zelensky in fourth. This is the one to go.
Well, you see Keister backs up his corner, tries to get on the inside of Zelensky. It's successful, but look at the 51 right here. Ray Alfala is just going to get into the back of Kyle Petal, shoves Keister out of the way. He gets another shot from Alfala, and Ottinger on the top side of that gets to transfer in. So tough sledding there for Keister. Had fourth and the bottom lane into three, and doesn't end up transferring in.
Another reminder to scan the QR code in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen and get up to date with all of the latest news and updates from the world of eNASCAR and iRacing, the official simulation partner of NASCAR. So we've already now sent 8 drivers to our feature race, heat race number 3, coming up next on deck. Of course, for more information on how to start your iRacing career today, you can log on to iRacing.com for more information. 10 drivers getting set to do battle once more in the Coliseum, and Parker Retzlaff driving for the newly rebranded RFK Racing, formerly known Roush Fenway Racing, now Roush Fenway Keselowski, with the addition of Brad Keselowski to the ownership group in the NASCAR Cup Series side of things. He'll be alongside the Austin Dillon-owned Team Dillon Esports entry of Corey Vincent. Graham Boland, the second of those Charlotte Phoenix entries, is third alongside the Elliott Sadler team entry of Liam Brotherton. Kyle Long's Mode Motorsports has Matt Busa starting fifth tonight, and the E-Racer entry of Colin Bowden is P6.
P7 will go to Garrett Maines. New number, but same organization, staying put at Elliott Sadler Esports. Surprising to see the short track A's back here starting P7 in this heat. You got Blade Witt with the Wood Brothers, Ryan Luza, who's always tough on these short tracks. And again, another shocker here, the other end of that RFK lineup, Caden Honeycutt. Another short track ace. We see him cut his teeth in the Cars Tour. He's starting in 10th in this one.
Caden, one of the few drivers who did not take a time in qualifying, so curious if he thinks it's a strategic advantage to be at the back. Certainly there was a lot of chaos we saw in that second heat race, or if he just didn't get the lap time he wanted it and got it wiped off of the board. But he'll be at the back of this 25-lap heat race. Again, top 4 going to make the show. We have already sent Vicente Salas, Michael Conti, Steven Wilson, and Cody Bias through from heat race number 1, and Jimmy Mullis, Casey Kerwin, Bobby Zelensky, and Nick Ottinger through from heat race number 2. Pace car gonna give way here. I think the next time by, probably no this time. Lights go out. He dives down. They're already beaten up on the inside line, but we're underway for lap 1 at 25. Retzlaff from the lead, sent into the outside wall, and Bolin will fight his way through. 3 wide for second.
And Garrett Maines was in 7th. He may have 3rd here at the end of lap 1. They're still beating and banging down the front straightaway. Oh, man, another big wreck here. 69 saves it about him, but this is just pure chaos.
Race leaders all over each other, and somehow through all of that, Matt Busa finds himself leading. Spinner in 4, it's Corey Vincent who goes around into the outside wall. Track will be clear by the time the race leaders come around, so no caution, we stay green. Busa now moved up and out of the way. Bolin looking for the race lead. Garrett Maines now will follow him through in second. He wants more. Very aggressive racing early in heat race 3.
You can see Garrett Maines trying to get the power down, but they're in high RPMs. They're probably running only in 2nd gear here, Evan. I ran this setup a little bit earlier, and you really had to stay in 2nd. You could maybe shift to 3rd. You think about a 5-speed transmission and how short these straightaways are. It doesn't make much sense to go beyond that, but Matt Busa just behind them, hands full with Ryan Luza. This will be side-by-side right in front of your transfer battle, but Brotherton, the other end of that Elliott Sadler Esports entries, may have a shot at it, and no, Luza, he'll get turned.
Well, Luza moved Busa the lap prior, and that was a bit of payback on behalf of the 75 of Busa. So Luza gets sent. Brotherton now finds an opening. He will slot into third. And Matt Busa, who hasn't had more than a moment's notice to catch his breath in this heat, is now in the hot seat with your former 17 machine, Caden Honeycutt, who started at the very back of the field here, has raced his way up to fifth, not without battle scars, but was in about a car length of that transfer position, and we're barely 9 laps into this thing.
My goodness, Evan, has the tide turned just a little bit since Heat 1 or what? This is the kind of the all-out brawl that we've wanted to see in a Coliseum of this size. A quarter-mile racetrack in a stadium reminiscent of a lot of great quarter miles you'd see out there. South Bend Motor Speedway, Slinger, Anderson, Bowman Gray, you name it. This is this is what stock cars and short tracks tend to produce.
And now, who's left, right? Take account of the damage, take account of who's left, and this is the best stuff right here. The battle for 4th and 5th position. Brotherton scooting away from Busa. Busa certainly feeling the pressure. And Caden Honeycutt behind. That is the difference between being in the feature and being sent home into the LCQ. Looking to the inside in turn number 1 and a spin, the leader. It was Garrett Maines sideways in the middle of the racetrack after he got sent by Graham Bolin. He'll now drop down. Busa assumes third. Honeycutt all of a sudden is fourth. Now that they're both in, you have to think they'll take it easy on each other.
You'd have to imagine that will change how things are going here, but you also have to remember, Evan, these guys, they really have nothing to lose here. This is a clash. It's not a points-paying event. They're just trying to cut their teeth, get used to eNASCAR, Coca-Cola, iRacing Series competition. So maybe they don't have a need to cool it down. This is just an opportunity for them to really test things out. And, of course, we've seen behind the transfer, it's been just as good, if not better, than what's happened up front. And Garrett Maines, who's going to be pretty hungry to try to get back to the front. Garrett Lowe is on right in front of him on his bumper.
So what a wild heat race number 3. Here's a good on-board look there with the RFK entry of Caden Honeycutt. Looking, I mean, it still seems like he wants a little bit more. Of course, it is worth fighting for. Each position, as mentioned, that you get up the road in these heat races will better your starting position when we go racing in the feature a little bit later on. So Caden would love to get an extra 4 spots up the road. I mean, that's how big the difference is with 4 heat races. So 4 positions on the line would be the difference between 3rd and 4th. Look at all the counter steer, though. I mean, he's really working to get this thing back onto the throttle. You got the brake pads glowing both on the front of the back end of these race cars, and Busa's doing his best to just hold his line. You gotta wonder, though, is Caden going to put the bumper to him, or is it not worth the risk? They're both about 2 seconds ahead of Garrett Maines, who's the first guy on the outside looking in right now, P5.
I think for somebody like Caden Honeycutt, experience at these short tracks, I just think he's kind of waiting for his opportunity. No need to try to make anything big happen. If you want to try to get another position, you're more than welcome to try to do it in these next couple of laps, maybe even the last lap. We saw how much change in turns 3 and 4 the last lap, last heat. So I think Honeycutt just going to try to work him over, see if there's a mistake that he can make. He'll take a crossover here off of 3 and 4. We've seen a couple of drivers try to make this work. He's going to duck it high, try to go low. Busa gets loose. That kind of checks him up. So that's the way you're going to try to pass, is Honeycutt kind of moving up the racetrack and trying to cut down for, I guess, kind of an arc you would see Joey Logano run oftentimes. Try to get a good run on corner exit.
And maybe now just enough space for that to simmer down as we look for the white flag. 1 lap to go in heat race number 3. Graham Bolin started this one back in 3rd position. And much like I do when I go bowling, use the bumper a lot. And he will force his way to the front. Bolin wins heat race number 3. You can see Brotherton 2nd and Busa hanging on to maintain 3rd. It means that Caden Honeycutt gets that final ticket in and is going to the feature.
He gets that final ticket, but how about that win? Charlotte Phoenix, first-time team getting a win in their second heat there with Graham Bolin.
Good stuff for the drivers up front. Of course, it means that Maines, Witt, Bowden, Luza, Retzlaff, Vincent all going to go to the LCQ. Tough break for both Retzlaff and Vincent, who didn't even make it 5 laps through this heat race. I'm noticing heat race 1 was relatively civil. We called it out. Evidently, that was a mistake because it got a little bit spicier in heat race 2. It was bedlam there in the first 10 laps or so of heat race number 3. So I don't know how many cars are going to be left at the end of heat race 4 if this trend continues, but they are lined up and ready to rock. Keegan Leahy will start this one from pole position. Your defending series champion from 2311 Racing, of course, the team co-owned by Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan. And to no surprise, if you watched any races last year, a 2311 lockout on the front row with Mitchell DeYoung. Strauss and Alt on 2, Reynolds and Mercurio your top 6.
And it's nice to see those drivers round out that field, rounding out the front row with 2311. Look further back, Alan Bowes, Derek Justice making his return once again to this season. And Dylan Duvall, another driver that really, I think he had a slip up. He was about a second off of everybody else there in that Storehouse Esports machine. So I think he may have something to prove here. Got a little loose either off of turn 4 or off of turn 2 as we take a look once again at our ASUS race analysis here. Same sledding here. Heat number 4, the last one where we will send 4 to the feature, and the rest of the field going to have to try and claw their way out of the Consi. For 50 laps, we'll take 6, and then, of course, still 120 laps with those 22 who advance to look forward to later on tonight.
That's going to be the fun one. I mean, it has been calamity enough with 10. We're going to more than double that number when we get to the feature, probably more than double that number when we get to the consolation here after this 4th and final heat race. Lights are out on top of the iRacing official pace car. You can see the red number on that 45 mission to Keegan Leahy. That is for the past champion. So Keegan looking to become the first driver this year to go back-to-back since Ray Alfala did it back in 2011 and 2012. Let's see if he can kick off his campaign with a win. Green flag in the air. It is all 23-11 as it's Leahy 1, DeYoung 2.
And they'll sort it out, no issues there. But that battle, again, we have to watch around 3rd. Dylan Alt, kind of in that same position we saw Cody Bias in a little bit earlier. Looks like he's going to be able to get down in line, though. May get a little bit of a nudge from Reynolds. They're side by side behind Reynolds, but your top 4 are able to sort it out quickly, and we've seen how important that's been in trying to advance to this feature.
You just want to get in line. You want to establish your positioning. Not that I think it makes you any more comfortable. Look at all the rookie stripes, though, in this one on the back bumper of these cars, right? You got Donovan Strauss. You got Dylan Alt there. A couple of rows back in the running order as they race side by side off of the corner is Brian Mercurio. And, geez, Dylan Duvall just about ripped the rookie stripes off the bumper of Mercurio with that send in 1 and 2. Duvall moving him for 7th position.
Well, and you got to think, if you're somebody like Brian Mercurio, this is a non-points paying race, you're a rookie. Do you allow somebody who's up there in terms of the all-time starts in this series, Dylan Duvall, 11th all-time in eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series starts? Brian Mercurio hasn't made an official one yet. You try to send a message that maybe he got in a little bit deep there, but you're not going to be pushed over in this series. Mercurio, if he gets back to Alt, as we continue to look at Dylan Duvall here, kind of work through right there. Again, a lot of turning out of these cars, and top 3 single file, but we'll see how Mercurio responds if he can get back to Dylan Duvall there.
You can see Donovan Strauss just trying to get up to the 23-11 duo up front of Leahy and Young. Strauss running in 3rd has been clean. He has been uneventful so far, and maybe that's the key. Doing a good job of putting some space back to Alt. Wanted to touch on that point, though, that you just mentioned, Blake, about the rookies and trying to earn respect as we look on board with Donovan Strauss here. In the NASCAR Cup Series, if a driver comes up to that series, they're racing through the trucks. They're racing through the Xfinity Series, oftentimes not having a ton of time racing on the track with the guys they're going to race against in the Cup Series, right? Not necessarily true in this series. With the relegation, with the Road to Pro Series, Brian Mercurio is somebody who's probably raced against all these drivers. Donovan Strauss in the exact same position, right? Has raced with all these guys time after time after time. He's not unfamiliar to race it against them in a general sense, but certainly he is the new kid on the block in this sense. From a driver perspective, how does that kind of shake out here on the sim when that progression ladder isn't really what it is in real life?
Well, I think you just take it all. And you're able to see how these guys handle different situations. You look at the rookie stripes of Donovan Strauss, you would think, oh, well, he's brand new to the series, but you're exactly right. We rotate drivers all the time. We take 20 out and put 20 more back in every year, so there's a lot of circulation amongst the Coach Series field. And as someone who competed in that ladder with Donovan Strauss, I don't think there's anyone in a long time, Evan, that's come up with as much potential and raw speed and maturity that Strauss has had. So I think he's one to look out for. If you're looking for somebody new to cheer on in this series, it's certainly him. And you can't forget about Dylan Alt either, another driver, very young, but you would think they race beyond their years of maturity.
Dylan Alt right now is the bubble spot. He rides in 4th position. Let's ride with the Coca-Cola onboard camera. There's a look on board with Dylan Alt. He is holding his own right now in the number 4 position. We talk about those rookie stripes, Blake. 9 drivers in the field of 40 here in 2022 are rookies. Again, rookies to this series. They are already successful drivers at the very top ranks of the iRacing world, but it's their first chance on the big stage. And I think relegation, I say it year after year, is my favorite part of this series. The fact that you've got a quarter of the field annually being rookies shows you how tough it is to stay at this level.
Well, and Evan, I think I'm going to go as far as saying that this crop of rookie talent that we have in this series is the best that we've ever had entering into a Coke Series season. Now, of course, that's not influenced by the fact that I got spanked by these guys, and of course, not mentioning that at all. But again, I think you're exactly right when you talk about the fact that we have so many rookies come in and they're competitive. You think about Steven Wilson last year, nearly won the regular season championship, didn't get a win, but overall was one of the top drivers in the series, just didn't get a win to advance into the postseason. And Dylan Alt's going to go for a spill here out of turn 2 as we take a look on board of Keegan Leahy, all going to try to get it going in the right direction. And the fact that he wasn't is going to bring out a yellow flag, a little bit of a track blocker right there.
That was contact for the transfer spot. Dylan Alt was running comfortably in that position, left a bit of an opening to the inside, and Blake Reynolds for Jim Beaver Esports went in, got him in the left rear. It wasn't a ton of contact, but we talk about the lack of banking here at the LA Coliseum, spun him right out, and then basically got stuck in turn 2. He couldn't straighten it out. We take a look at the replay right now. You can see the inside's a little bit open. It's tempting Blake. The bottom is, there's physically room there, but it's not like Dylan Alt opened up the lane, right? That's simply just how you have to take the corner. And when you take that wide arc, it's almost tempting somebody to throw it up the inside like we saw there.
Well, and I think you saw that temptation come to fruition there. You saw a little bit of smoke out of that left front tire, and that's what's going to happen when you try to commit just that little bit extra late and get on that brake. You saw Reynolds, you're exactly right. He saw just the littlest inkling of an opening right there, braked a little bit later, but you could see, obviously not intentional there with that left front lockup, but boy, has that set something up here. Our first green-white checkered in our last heat, Evan. This is going to be something.
Yeah, for the first time tonight, we are going to eNASCAR overtime. 2 laps to settle this one. Buckle up, because we still have all 9 drivers on the lead lap and in contention. It's still the 2311 duo on the front row. Leahy to the inside, DeYoung to the outside. You're on board with Alan Bowes with 2 laps to go.
And he's going to shake it up right with them. They're side by side for that transfer, but right now he's going to be topside 3 wide as they head into the corner. That's not going to work. Pedal up the racetrack.
Mercurio locked it up. Oh, and now a spin. He spins down towards the back of the field, but the white flag is in the air. This one's official. Leahy will lead them all. He'll get the win off of 4. It's DeYoung second, Strauss third, and Blake Reynolds survives to finish in 4th position. And I'll tell you what, coming to a green-white checkered, being in 4th position, I'm sure Blake was awfully nervous, but he did just enough to survive and make it to the feature.
He certainly did. He stayed cool and calm under pressure, but we see how quickly these things can unravel, how much it helps having your teammates up front. They were clean. Leahy, DeYoung gave each other room, and they were able to sort it out. But when these guys get side by side, it just stacks things up so quickly to track where there's just not a lot of room.
The tough break for the drivers who get roughed out of it. Those bottom 6 will be sent to the LCQ. That is coming up next. Still tons of racing to come from the City of Angels. You're watching the 2022 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series Clash. The LCQ is next.
We've learned to savor the moments that were always there. And they never tasted this good.
The spotlights have shined before. On February 6th, they will shine again. On something LA has never seen. You coming? Get your tickets now at NASCAR.com/LA Coliseum.
Coverage of tonight's eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series Clash is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. By Logitech G and the Logitech G923, the official wheel and pedal of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. By Asus, the official gaming hardware partner of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. And by Playseat. Experience the thrill and glory of sim racing with Playseat. 4 heats down, an LCQ, and a feature still to go from iRacing's virtual Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. It's been a wild night thus far, and want to remind you that this is just the start of an exciting 2022 eNASCAR calendar. Of course, to get up to date with all the latest in the world of eNASCAR, scan the QR code at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen and sign up to learn more from iRacing, the official simulation partner of NASCAR. Of course, you can get involved with this series far more than just watching us here on Tuesday nights. You can go to iRacing.com to start your sim racing career today. And if you want to keep up to date as we race towards a championship this year, keep up to date with the schedule, the standings, and even information on how you could be a driver in this series one day, you can find all of that information at iRacing.com/eNASCAR. Cars are doubled up. They are waiting to get underway for an LCQ. That's coming up just a little bit later on. And James, I know over the years we've talked about Bristol being the last great Coliseum and how it's been a battle there. But man, the Coliseum has lived up to its name so far here tonight.
We've seen quite some battles in the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. Here's another look at the track. Good overhead shot here. It's a quarter mile, but other thing we should note, touched on the banking at the top of the broadcast. We've got arch straightaways as well. And I noticed in those heat races that we saw a lot of drivers with different apexes, different places where they hit the bottom of the racetrack in the corner. It led to some incidents in those corners. So don't be surprised if we see drivers with different lines get into each other, cause a few more spins in the turns in the LCQ in the feature.
Blake, that's something that you touched on earlier when I was talking about drivers dipping below the white line, the fact that everybody's got a little bit of a unique way to get around this place.
And that's exactly right. As we take a look at our starting grid right here, Briar LaPrade, Logan Clampett going to start up front. We saw a fair amount of trouble for them. Can they bounce back and utilize that track position? Garrett Maines, Dylan Duval, row 2. Michael Guest and Ray Alfala. We saw him make a big send. He got himself some good track position for this one.
Yeah, they're all going to be ahead of the likes of Blade Witt and Brian Beccario, who make up row number 4, Taylor Hurst and Kyle Peddle on row 5. Colin Bowden, Dylan Alt, they are your top 12.
Zach Novak, Colin Keister, heartbreak. We'll see how he recovers here. Ryan Luza never really got going, had early trouble, got spun. So did Justice Bias Olot. So looking towards the back of this field, you're looking at a lot of drivers who really just didn't have a good running, to be honest. They just they got swallowed up, and they'll have to overcome some bad track position.
Parker Retzlaff started on pole for his heat race. Corey Vincent started for second in his. They both didn't make it in and find themselves all the way down at the bottom of the starting grid. So as we move to the Consolation LCQ, we change up the format just a little bit as we check back in with our ASUS race analysis. It is a 50-lap race, still only 6 drivers going to advance. You thought it was crazy with 10 cars on track. Well, now we got 23 of them lined up side by side, and we're going green in one lap.
Well, and Evan, I know I was running the Coliseum Clash, the official series, on iRacing last week, and, you know, the heats are pretty similar to what we saw there. A couple of clean ones, a couple ones that got, guys got their elbows out, but when you put 22 cars on track, that's when it gets crazy. That's when a track blocker that may just kind of be a single car spin turns into a pileup. And this is where we're really going to see a great preview of what's to come Sunday night when we get to run the Busch Light Clash in real life as well, how this stacks up.
It really is going to be an opportunity to preview all of that action for Sunday night. It's also interesting to note 23 drivers in this race here right now. Of course, basically the same number of what we're going to see in our feature a little bit later. So preview of what's to come in about 30 minutes or so for the main event. There's a lot of cars, though, down the road that find themselves way out of a transfer spot. What can you make happen? Pace car down and in. Green flag flies. We're racing in the last chance qualifier. Already chaos. Clampett's into the outside wall. Garrett Maines goes with him. They'll funnel through 3 wide, and just like that, 2 of the top 5 cars get taken out.
And that is the second consecutive time for Clampett. He gets spun on lap 1. They're still not done banging doors, though, here off at turn 2. And, oh, that might be a blocker. 43 is around. Kyle Peddle is involved. And surely enough, that's going to be a caution. And this wreck has continued to turn 3. Alan Bowes, Derek Justice, Femi Olot. I can't list them off quick enough, Evan.
It'd be easier to list the drivers that aren't in that incident, and you could see a great perspective that we had from high above when it happened, how once they all started spinning, there was just no way through. Here's another look. You can see it develop with Peddle pushed to the outside at 1 and 2, gets hooked by the 43 machine right there. And once those two got together, I mean, it was everybody from about 15th position on back that had nowhere to go. Race control was able to be a little bit generous with them, Blake, in those heats with those smaller car counts. A couple of the cars spin, even though the leaders would quickly be on the scene, gave them a chance to turn them around and get going in this LCQ. Much like I think we'll see in the feature, you got an incident like that, you got to drop the yellow. There was nowhere for those leaders to go if they were to come back around. And one important thing to note that wasn't a huge factor in those heats is that these caution flag laps here in this LCQ will count against our 50-lap total. Now, we're not expecting these caution flag periods to take out a ton of laps, but it's that many less laps, I think, that Briar LaPrade has to worry about, but it does mean another restart, and it has not been a safe position to be in a bubble spot.
No, it hasn't, and of course, when looking at this and how these yellow flags may develop. We're also not pitting cars, just like in the real clash that'll be taking place on Sunday. We're not changing tires. We're not even allowing people to pull down to pit road to fix damage. So the damage you have, if you can roll with it, again, this is a quarter-mile track. You can withstand a lot, but if you have some required repairs, that's pretty much going to do you in here in this consolation race. And hearing that might be the case already for a couple of drivers, Nick Shelton, Kyle Peddle, Logan Clampett may be involved with that as he's going to pull it down here into pit road, so that may end that quickly. So as quickly as we started, Evan, we had 23, we got 20.
It's a tough break, and when we race into the feature, we've got a special guest up here in the broadcast booth with us, the defending series champion, Keegan Leahy. Keegan, thanks for hanging out. I know that you've been out there dealing with this as we come to the restart. Just talk us through this. What's going on down there?
Yeah, everyone really wants the bottom here for sure. As you can see, they're all fighting for it, and
there they go.
In the outside wall, and it's going to keep happening tonight.
It didn't take long. You started up at the front of your heat race. You won your heat race, so you didn't have to deal with this. 3 wide off of turn number 4. Will they find room into turn number 1? A bit of friendly fire there as the Rise entries get into each other. I mean, you know, we've done short track racing, Keegan, in the past with this series, but, I mean, there is so little room, and we got more guys stacking up now.
I love Keegan's look. He's just laughing at this. He's saying, thank goodness I'm not in here. Oh, my goodness. This is chaos out here. The 42 is spun around at Derek Bordeaux. Keegan, you seem pretty happy watching all of this and not taking part in it.
Yeah, I didn't get a very good view out in front, so this is supposed to be a fun race.
It was too boring in the race lead, is what I'm hearing.
I mean, I had a teammate behind me, too, so there was no risk.
Another caution flag will come out. We got more cars wrecked down in turns 1 and 2. It looks like this time it's Taylor Hurst and Derek Justice. Aside from racing, Keegan, against, in your case, 9 of the drivers in the heat, and maybe this is more of a preview of what you'll be dealing with in the feature with a bigger car count, when it's just you in the track, right? Tell us about your impressions of learning this LA Coliseum track. I mean, does it compare to anything that we've raced at before, or is it totally unique?
Feels closer to a road course than anything I've driven before, really. There's a lot of technique with your braking, how you get on throttle. You know, how I drove through that 25 lap race, it changed completely from lap 1 to lap 20. It's really hard to get the power down in these cars. There's quite a lot of horsepower, not very much downforce at all, and it makes it difficult and very fun to drive. And I'm really looking forward to the rest of the season now, seeing how this car drives at this place.
Well, I was about to say, Keegan, there, you talk about the difference in this car. Kind of explain for some of the fans out there, because I know we've heard a lot of talk about the wider wheel diameter. It's 15 to 18 inches, the shorter sidewall, and kind of how these cars are hard to catch, especially at a track like this where you're at high RPM on corner exit.
Yeah, I don't know what it is exactly. Something to do with how the downforce gets lost as soon as you get sideways, maybe, or something with the tire. As we're coming to the restart here, you're going to see these guys sliding tires on exit, and if someone gets too sideways, they're going to be done here. So let's see how turn 1 goes.
Looks like LaPrade clear for the race lead. Duval into second. The battle is going to be for third behind him. Michael Guest and Alfala, but remember the top 6, the magic number from this LCQ to get to the feature. So that's where you find Bowden and Alt fighting. We also have Michael Conti in the broadcast booth with us. And Mike Keegan's just been sitting here laughing at all of the chaos. Very happy that he's not dealing with it right now. How's it been from your perspective, and how happy are you're not dealing with this right now?
Well, that's exactly right. I'm laughing hysterically because I don't have to be out here dealing with what's going on in these races. Heat 1 was really clean. Ray just got cleaned out, but it's not very clean anymore. And I think this is exactly what we were expecting with the Coliseum, and we were definitely delivering on that tonight.
Well, Michael, continue to look forward here. I was going to ask Keegan as well, and I'll kind of ask you along the same lines, the differences in this next-gen car. I know as somebody who builds a lot of setups and has been working really closely with it, with the changes that we've seen and this new kind of rules that we're moving forward with, what are you anticipating here as we look forward and kind of past Daytona this year?
Well, this whole car and package and how it drives, it's a complete contrast. You've got a brand new car, next generation, new parts, new technology and everything, but the way it drives and the way you have to drive it is very old school. It's very Gen 4-like, with the way you don't have a lot of side force to lean on in the corners, and how you have to be really precise with the inputs and the throttle, and making sure you're not overdriving entry, especially on the intermediates now. It's super fun to drive. The latest changes that iRacing and NASCAR rolled out have really changed the game with this car, and it's put a lot back into the driver's hands, which I think everybody appreciates and is looking forward to. So the Coliseum is a very one-off type of deal. Yeah, it's hard to drive here, but it's hard to drive for different reasons than it'll be hard to drive at, say, a place like Auto Club or Vegas. So yeah, super fun to drive, super hard, and it makes it challenging, which is great for us. You know, we're here for a reason, and we need to be challenged, and this is definitely doing that.
Well, go to Keegan on this one first, because Keegan had the better of the heat race results than you two. I mean, you're happy that you're not dealing with this Conci race right now, but you're going to have to deal with it basically in the future, right? 20 plus some odd cars, Keegan. So what are you guys learning here? What's going to be the key other than maybe, you know, bringing a backup car to bring out halfway through this then? I mean, can you learn anything from this, or all we learning is it's going to be a melee and you might have to use up Conti's bumper to win if you need to?
I'm hopefully getting to the point of the race where it's strung out like this and you can start using some more tactics to get around people instead of just hoping you don't get pinballed into the wall. But yeah, I had a pretty uneventful first race, but unfortunately I didn't lay down the best qualifying lap, so the best I could start is fourth, which I am starting because I won my heat race. But that means I'm in the pack on the outside on the first restart. I don't think it's going to go as cleanly as before, as we watch somebody get sent again and we're 3 wide on the exit of turn 4.
That's not going to work.
Yeah, talking about bumping, I mean, Michael, you'll be behind Keegan, so what's the plus minus? Is 2 car lengths too far back to send Keegan, or 3, 4? What's the plus minus on sending him if he's in front of you?
No, you can be as far back as you want. You saw right there, they were even side by side and they hooked each other on the straightaway. So everything is in play. Every part of the car is in play. And I mean, listen, Keegan won the championship last year. He did very well. So if I have to move him and take him out, I'm not gonna feel too bad. Just saying.
Fair enough.
A couple of champs going back and forth there, Blake.
It certainly is. Well, Michael, I just have one more question for you. I think that is the largest seat back of any chair that I've ever seen. It's got to be pretty comfortable back there, isn't it?
Is it a big seat back, or is he just really small, though?
Hey, now. No short jokes.
See,
no short jokes.
I phrased the question properly.
No, it's this WR1 rig is super cool. Chad hooked me up with it last year, about 3 races in, and it's a game changer. Just the whole perspective of driving the sim in a cockpit like this changes the game, and I'm thrilled to have it. But it is a very big seat. It definitely makes me look even smaller, which is not what I need. So I need one of those like low bench seats from like a car back in the 70s where my head is sticking up higher. That may give the illusion that I'm taller than I am. But in all seriousness, great rig, fun to drive in, and really fun to watch this race. I hope everybody's enjoying it. It's just a total cluster, but that's great. It's fun to watch. I don't know how much fun I'm going to be having when I'm a pinball here in about 20 minutes, but hey, good for the fans. So we're happy to see it.
Get your screenshots in now of the cars while they look good, guys. I appreciate you both jumping up here. Best of luck in the feature later.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Keegan Leahy and Michael Conti, you'll see them both in the feature race a little bit later on. Meanwhile, this constellation has 17 laps to go. Briar LaPrade has been on cruise control to this point. We'll see how long that can continue. It's Conti's teammate in the lead, but here comes Dylan Duval up the inside, moves him out of the way, and for the first time, Duval goes to the lead.
Spinner in the back, it was Ryan Luza, but again, you see that stack up, everybody trying to get to the bottom and just hold their ground there. They're willing to withstand some punches here if they just don't get turned. Dylan all too wide, banging doors again, all in that final transfer spot. Up the track goes to 6, that's Parker Retzlaff, and now he's on the outside looking in.
Parker Retzlaff has done everything in the sim when it comes to short track racing, but that time got moved up and out of the way by the 43 mission to Colin Keister. He's now on the outside. 3 wide, a spinner. There goes the 40 of Dylan Alt. Mercurio now trading paint with Zach Novak. That one's the battle for the bubble. Nobody can settle her down. And through all of that now, Blade Witt is in, but for how long?
Well, that's the question. This is right where that transfer battle is. 3 wide, 31 gets loose up the racetrack, scattered 4. Is Maine still in the bottom? I think he is. Witt's going to get into him. There are no punches being held back here, Evan. Corey Vincent now has a chance if he wants to get in the back of Garrett Maines. This is wild. And again, this is all for that 6th and final transfer spot. Look at how used up these cars are.
Only one of these cars are going to make it. Let's enjoy it all from the driver's seat with our Coca-Cola onboard camera. You can see the number 5 machine there of Zach Novak. Of course, new number with that. Oh, and a huge spin behind him. Corey Vincent absolutely got waxed into turn 1 by Alan Bose, who is trying to get underneath him. I was about to say that Novak's the first driver on the outside looking in with challenge from behind, but now he's got a bit of a buffer because they're all wrecking each other behind him.
And he's got about 7 or 8 car lengths right now over that driver behind him. That's Alan Bose, Space Station Racing this year, taking on a new set of drivers. But this is where you want to be. Briar LaPrade, we mentioned his struggles in the opening heat. He just lost the lead right there to Dylan Duval. But Duval and LaPrade both, look at their cars, Evan. That's what track position gets you. A clean race car, which has been hard to come by in this LCQ.
Fortunately, in the virtual world, we don't only have about 5 next-gen cars per team. I mean, these drivers are in a good position right now to tear up as much virtual equipment as they want. They also don't need to fix these body panels when they go to the feature a little bit later on. You can see Briar LaPrade fueled by some Coca-Cola at his home office on board with him. Still in second. Didn't let that bump and run from Dylan Duval spook him or bother him. He's right there in second. Curious if it's worth repaying the favor. Duval moved him. Does he return it?
We'll see if he does. I know racing against LaPrade, somebody who's just come a long way, really put it all together this year, has some great help around him, and now obviously has a great teammate to lean on, and Michael Conti at Junior Motorsports. White flag of the air, though. Does he have a crack at it? And, of course, Maines right now, your 6th driver, and Novak's got a chance here, but not sure if he can get it done.
Going to be a little bit short. He doesn't get the mistake at a Garrett Maines that he needed, and Maines will hang on. So Dylan Duval leads the last 17 laps of the feature race, and he will punch his ticket into the main event. Briar LaPrade will join him. Michael Guest, Parker Retzlaff, Colin Keister, and Garrett Maines all will join him.
And that's it. Everybody else going home, not going to be able to compete in this, again, exhibition-style event, so at least there's a little bit of solace in that if you missed out on the feature, it's not going to hurt you in the championship battle. You're not going to lose points because of it, but unfortunate breaks there. You look down through the field, Evan, a lot of drivers there at the bottom, starting with Corey Vincent, Eric Justice, a lot of drivers who didn't even see the checkered flag in this thing. Could that be a little bit of a preview when we get everyone out here that transferred in? I think that might be the case.
Yeah, a lot of these drivers were fighting to get up a spot. Right now, there is no bubble. There will not be a transfer spot. I mean, all these drivers get sent home, and when those few who are able to advance into that feature are left, it's going to be every man for himself. We're also going to add a lot more laps, Blake. I don't know if that's really going to make them that much more patient, but at least they got more laps to work with coming up next.
Well, that is true. I think, look how many cars we lost in 50. Let's make it 120 and see how many are left at the end.
It is certainly going to be a rumble as we go to that feature race coming up next here from the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. However, before we get to that part of tonight's programming, a huge part of these shows all year long is going to be our Countdown to Green pre-race shows. And super excited to bring that team into the broadcast booth now to talk a little bit, to kind of preview what's going to be coming up on the season and welcome the new members in. So Camille, you're going to be leading our coverage. We're so excited to have you a part of the team and looking forward to working with you all year.
Thanks, Evan. I am super excited to be hosting Countdown to Green with an amazing crew of people. This season is already showing that it's going to be a good one and one to talk about with next gens hitting the track. And luckily for all of you at home, Countdown to Green is going to take you through the storylines of the season, interviews, as well as just our overall love and appreciation for eNASCAR and simulation racing. We do like to have lots of fun on Countdown to Green, and a lot of that excitement comes from our analysts. Joining me this season is our analyst, Alan Cabana and Brandon Cattell. How are you boys?
Oh, it's awesome to be out here. You said a lot of fun watching those first 5 races. How could you not have fun watching what we may see on Sunday at the Coliseum? This is a great preview. I love what we're seeing already.
Yeah, this is going to be great.
Yeah, I'm just kind of worried. Boys, where's your green? You're not celebrating properly.
We could have had like a red flag and a yellow flag kind of thing. We didn't match this year for some reason.
Yeah, we'll work on it. We're a new team. We're getting better.
We'll get better.
We'll get better. Maybe through the season, we'll see you guys rock some green. But for now, Alan, we haven't even started our first Countdown to Green show, and you're already hard at work. You have Steve Myers standing by, Executive Vice President of iRacing, to get his take on the season.
Yeah, man, it's so good to start the season with a special guest. As you said, we are now joined by Steve Myers, Executive Vice President of iRacing. Steve, I got to start out with the action on track. We've been waiting so long to see the LA Coliseum. We saw it tonight already. What do you think of the action so far?
Well, I've been lucky, and first of all, welcome to Alan and Camille. It's great to have you guys joining the pre-race show. I love it, and I'm looking forward to a great season with you guys. But we've been lucky that we've been seeing races on the Coliseum now for months because we've had these Coke drivers helping us participate in the design of the track. So a lot of credit goes to them for what we're going to see on Sunday. I mean, yes, there was some wrecks in the consi there, but I have a feeling the feature will be a little cleaner. And I think the race on Sunday is going to be fantastic as well.
Yeah, you mentioned it. It's not just a relationship with NASCAR anymore. It's a full collaboration when it comes to NASCAR and iRacing. When it comes to track development, reconfiguration, how important has that been for iRacing's relationship?
It's been pretty incredible. I mean, I think, our relationship with NASCAR goes back, more than 13 years now with iRacing, but for far longer or even longer with Papyrus before that. And so, there isn't many relationships probably in this game space that's longer than the relationship that NASCAR has had with us. And so I've always felt like as a company that we could be valuable in helping, a series like NASCAR, figure out the future, where they want to go with their cars and their tracks. And so over the last 2 years, we've done a number of projects with NASCAR, and we have a number of technical projects going on now with them as well. And so we're really just starting to scratch the surface on what we can do for the industry and for NASCAR.
Yeah, you're helping develop the racetracks themselves. How about this new next-gen car? A lot of people seeing it for the first time. What's iRacing's involvement been in the actual development of the car itself?
That was an exciting project for us. I mean, it's been almost 3 years that we've been working on that. And so at the same time that NASCAR was developing the car, we were doing development work at the same time. And I laughed, when we debuted the car in the spring of last year on the Pro Invitational races, that we probably had more development time in the car at that point than NASCAR did, because of the number of people and resources that we had driving the cars and testing the cars. And so it's been a great relationship. And I think, again, we're going to keep working on really great projects like this, not only bring NASCAR closer to the fans, but also to bring technology closer to NASCAR to help them.
Yeah, I think about the growth of iRacing, and you mentioned all the way back to Papyrus, then the collaboration with NASCAR. How do you describe this journey? And especially, how do you describe what's next and what could be coming down the line?
It's very gratifying for us as a company to have worked so hard to be in a position to be able to help racing organizations like NASCAR do these types of projects. I think, again, with what we're able to do in the digital space, we're able to do things that they can't do in the real world without spending millions of dollars. So for us to prototype Auto Club or the Coliseum, these are things that are saving NASCAR a ton of money and also getting us closer to the sport.
Well, we're enjoying it. I appreciate it. You want to make a quick pick? We're all waiting on this main event. You want to make a pick?
It's going to be tough. One of those 2311 cars, Mitchell or Keegan, those two guys are going to be tough. I'm going to go with, I'll go with Mitchell since Keegan won the championship. I'll take Mitchell.
I like that line of thinking. Steve Myers, Executive Vice President of iRacing, thank you for helping us kick off the season.
Thanks, guys. Have a great season.
Oh, that's awesome. We've heard Steve's input on what's his thoughts are on the season. Now, Brandon, I know you're really excited to see Coliseum in action. What are your thoughts on how this will play out throughout the season?
Well, I mean, I look at Michael Conti and Keegan Leahy up in the booth. I am so glad I am not a driver anymore. You have no idea. I am glad to be up here with you guys watching it. It's action-packed. The LA Coliseum is where it's at, guys. You gotta love it. It's gonna be a great night.
I just can't believe the progression we've seen already. Think about that first heat. I mean, wire-to-wire winner, right? We didn't see too much. I was a little worried. I mean, a little single-file racing. And then with each race, we've seen more and more action to the point where some people were getting sent in that first corner of the first turn. And then the consolation race was just a bit crazy. I know the points aren't on the line just yet, so this is all for a little fun, but I can't wait to see what the main event is like when the actual checkered flag is on the line, what some of these drivers will do. I think the drivers who are starting up front, they may have something of an advantage, but there's no safety out there.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta ask then, who will win feature?
I'm going with Graham Bolin. Graham Bolin, he's really good at road courses. You heard Keegan say this reminds him of a road course. Graham won Watkins Glen last year. I think Graham gets the job done tonight.
All right, well, Steve Myers took my picks of 2311 racing. You got to go with Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin all the time, but an underdog. I'm going with RFK, Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing. Parker Retzlaff, he got sent in his heat, yet he came back in the consolation race and he's going to race in the main event. I'm going to pick him as an underdog pick.
All right, well, there you have it. Thank you, boys, so much. And the Countdown to Green crew can't wait to deep dive into this season with all the insights our analysts have to give and interviews and lots more. We'll see you in Daytona International Speedway. Back to you, Evan.
Well, thanks. We're looking forward to that. We'll catch up with all of you in 2 weeks' time when we do this thing for real with points on the line at Daytona. Certainly excited to see what this season holds. Points are going to be big. Wins are going to be big. Blake, we'll have tons of time to talk about this over the course of the season on some of those critical points that were factors last year. Tonight, though, I don't really care about points. I don't care about keeping it clean, right? Only thing that matters tonight is winning this class. We've now whittled this field down to our feature race size, and all that's left is to go racing for 120 laps. Feature race is next.
Exactly, Evan. And I think that a little bit of that calmness, if we can call it that, if we can even say that anybody was taking it easy. I mean, this is a race where winning is the only thing that matters. Second on back, guess what? Nobody's going to remember who, I don't remember who finished second in the class last year, but I remember who won it. And of course, that is going to be the case. If you're second or third, you're going to go all out to try to get the dub tonight.
Also, who wants to be the first NASCAR feature race winner at the Coliseum? We're about to find out. Let's go trackside and take a look at your Coca-Cola starting grid for the Clash at the Coliseum feature. So, based on the heat race finishing results, Vicente Salas will bring us to the green flag from pole position. He'll be joined on the outside of the front row by Jimmy Mullis. Graham Bolin and Keegan Leahy will line up in row 2. Those are all 4 of your heat race winners, ahead of Michael Conti and Casey Kerwin.
Ricky Stripe of Liam Brotherton will roll off from 7th, and of course, Steve's pick, Mitchell DeYoung, will roll off from the outside of row number 4, the 8th position. Steven Wilson, 9th. Bobby Zielinski of that JGR Power lineup going to start 10th. Matt Busa and Donovan Strauss, the newcomer, round out your top 12.
Continue on down 3, you got Garrett Lowe and Nick Ottinger in the middle of the field. Caden Honeycutt and Blake Reynolds ahead of Dylan Duvall and Briar LaPrade, your top 18.
And further on down, you get Michael Guess, another veteran of the series. Parker Retzlaff. We'll see if Allen's pick can come forward from the back of the field. Think if there's certainly a track to do it at, this would be it. Of course, Colin Keister and Garrett Maines got their way in. Keister was very competitive for the Charlotte Phoenix early on in his heat. I think he may have something to say to try and race back through the field. Garrett Maines did as well.
The largest field, the longest length that we have seen here this afternoon. We started tonight with 39 drivers. We are down to the fastest 22. Let's take one more look, Blake, at our Asus race analysis.
Well, no more heats, no more Conti. It's all about 120 laps. No features, nobody moving on. It's all about getting the dub, ending up with that checkered flag. And again, no pitting. So this is going to be a little bit of a factor here, Evan. We went 50 laps in the Conti, but we're going to go 120 here. These guys aren't going to be allowed to take tires. So towards the end, I expect that we'll see this tire conservation come into play.
We'll see how well these drivers pace themselves. We talk about all the Olympic ties to this Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. We started with the 100-meter dash in those heats, but now it's time for a long race. Maybe not quite marathon length, but we're talking 1,500-plus meters. I mean, you're going to need to take it easy. Keep the car in one piece. Problem is, if the guy behind you doesn't subscribe to that same train of thought, good luck. Pull those virtual belts tight one final time. We are set to go feature racing from virtual Los Angeles. We're happy to have you with us here in 2022 as we say, let's go racing in the Coliseum. Looking at the battle about fourth in line, it's the 8 machine of Michael Conti. He makes a move for fourth. That'll squeeze Casey Kerwin to the outside of the racetrack. His number 45 machine now getting past the machines. Leahy's 45 getting passed up by Kerwin down on the inside. And Mitchell DeYoung gets around his teammate, so not a good start for Keegan Leahy. Victim of being on the outside line, he's already down 2.
Well, and again, he was laughing up here a couple of minutes ago, but I think he's got to put the visor back on and get ready here as he's able to get back down in line. But I'm looking a little bit further behind this group. You see the number 8, the 95 right on your screen. Casey Kerwin, and we may have a spinner off at turn 2. Liam Brotherton, number 2, goes around, able to get going in the right direction, though, and actually, no, they're going to throw the caution. And this is what we're going to talk about a couple of times here, Evan, that was a simple single car spin. In the heat with just a couple of drivers, that would not have been an issue. But even I was calling that Brotherton and that Elliott Sadler Esports Chevrolet was going to get it turned around quickly, but even I didn't realize how quickly the leaders came up on it.
I mean, you figure by the time he stopped spinning, you really only had about 6 seconds until the field had caught up to him. There just isn't room for him to really get out of the groove either, and what a rotten way for this feature race to start for the Elliott Sadler Esports driver. You can see Brotherton. We talked about that temptation of the bottom being open, and it was Steven Wilson who just entered the corner a little bit lower, tapped Brotherton, and again, he just got pinned down there, really couldn't go anywhere, and your race leaders were quickly approaching, so caution flag had to come from race control. Vicente Salas obviously was lifting to watch out for that car and didn't want to lose a position to Jimmy Mullis, who is in second. Again, these yellow flags will count against our 120 lap total. Pretty minor incident, though, to kick off this feature race here for this 2022 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series Clash. Just like that, we're doubled up and ready to get back underway. So Salas still on the front row with Jimmy Mullis. That did not change, but Michael Conti started 5th, went to 3rd. The inside has been money on these starts and restarts. Can the 8 car get a little bit more here? Green flag flies. We're back underway. Conti wants to get underneath Mullis. He will force his way to the inside.
And Mullis going to be shoved up the racetrack. Can he get down? But Casey Kerwin going to be right there. And this is one of those things when you get shoved into the outside line, how long it takes you to get back down. We'll see Mullis struggle as you can see them continuing to scatter 1 and 2 wide here at this track. We've seen 3 wide a couple of times. Hasn't worked out all too well, but how about Casey Kerwin on the march? He's taking that XSET gaming machine up to 3rd. Big send from behind from Mitchell DeYoung.
Let's ride with the iRacing virtual drone cam and follow these drivers around. Spinner, it's Mullis. Busa plows in. Problems for the Rise Esports and the Mode Motorsports entries behind. They're able to straighten him out, fire off, and this race stays green. You're looking at Duval. He rides right now in the middle of the chaos, P10. Further up the road, though, Mitchell DeYoung's number 23 car is 5th. That is Bobby Zelensky challenging him in a 3-way fight that includes Graham Bolin.
Well, a three-way fight up here, but look ahead of these leaders, Evan. We're already starting to see lap traffic come into play. Drivers that didn't get spun, and there we get a spin. That is Colin Keister on the inside of that 43 Charlotte Phoenix Toyota. He gets spun the wrong way, and it has just not been a night to write home about for the veteran of the series who has made his return in 2022.
And there is major damage on race leader Vicente Salas' car from that incident. Salas is not happy with Colin Keister. Keister was trying to straighten that car out, Blake, but pulled directly in front of Salas. We take a look at the replay. It all starts with just a touch, and then race control is going to throw the yellow because your leaders are coming, but right here, he stopped, he rolls. That's your leader. The 19 with big front and back end damage, and by the time the yellow came out, he had lost the race lead for a moment. It looks like Michael Conti will now be scored as the leader, and Salas goes from being comfortably in the lead to now being second without a front or rear bumper, just like that.
Well, and if I were Vicente Salas, of course I'd be upset. I would think the same thing. But also, if you're Keister right there, you are smack dab in the middle of the racetrack. And you could see him. He was trying to go low to get out of the way and obviously get going in the right direction. But even if he hadn't moved, there was nothing that he could have done to try and get out of the way there. That just shows you the tight confines of this track, that wrecks come around and there's just nowhere to go with how small this racing facility is.
We're back underway with 17 laps complete. There's a bump right out of the gate. Graham Bolin moves Vicente Salas. He goes in with vengeance. DeYoung's going to slide him out of the way. They're 3 wide. He can't help but crack a smile. Graham Bolin initiated all of that, and he is now at a race-high P2.
Well, it's all fun and games until you're involved in it. We've seen a number of these drivers have a pretty lighthearted attitude, but it's a lot easier when you see a clean race car in front of you than what Vicente Salas and company are dealing with directly behind them, especially for Salas, who I believe, because of that damage, may be a little bit off the pace, and he'll just have to fight to hang on here. I think he's lost a little bit of straightaway speed. His caution flag on the speedway, former champion Nick Ottinger has spun it here in turn 2. Or excuse me, that's Keegan Leahy.
An early slowdown, and there is the 45 machine up against the outside wall of Keegan Leahy, and he had his opportunity to laugh during the LCQ, but there's no smiles now for Keegan. He got touched by Honeycutt in 1, and Honeycutt only got into him because Nick Ottinger got into him. I mean, a couple of accordion effects that we've seen here this afternoon, and nothing that Keegan did wrong there, just the slightest of touches, and he ended up into the outside wall. A second look will give you the tail of the tape. Keegan is the red number 45. Remember those red numbers for a past series champ? You see he's all on his own, but right there, 25 into the 17, 17 into the 45. There's no defensive driving that Keegan Leahy could have done about that. It's just plain old rotten luck. It'll drop him all the way down to 20th on the scoring pylon.
Well, and that's the case, Evan. You need your spotter because a lot of times you just look in your mirror, you see somebody behind you, and if there's contact made, well, you're seeing red in the helmet. You're already thinking it's that guy behind you, but there's just an accordion effect with how these cars funnel into turn 1 and turn 3 at this racetrack that it's not always the guy directly behind you that you may be having a little bit of beef with.
This is true. You got to keep tabs on where everybody is, and of course, each restart, in theory, provides an opportunity for the cars on the bottom to gain, an opportunity for the drivers on the outside to lose. Let's see what Bolin can do defensively. He did a very good job of making the outside line work. He wants to go to the race lead. Underneath Michael Conti and side by side for the race lead, Graham Bolin will break through and get his first lap lead of the night.
And a great drive there from Graham Bolin. I think it was Brandon Cattell who picked him. He looks awfully sporty right there, but not so quick. Conti going to counter back. Clean so far, and a near dead heat at the stripe, a drag race here. We talk about quarter miles. You can be quick at a quarter mile, but right now Conti able to muscle his way on by.
Oh, and look at Graham. He saw DeYoung coming, but he missed the turn entirely. Conti saw it coming, got out of the way. And now Bolin's going to get spun into the outside wall. Zelensky and Wilson get together. It's a parking lot in turn number 2. Will they clear the track in time? Michael Conti has found himself leading this race after all of that. And we're looking at the battle for second as Casey Kerwin gets around Mitchell DeYoung. So just like that, the complexion of the top 5 changes. And we have another special guest joining us in the broadcast booth, Ray Alfalla. Ray, I know you'd rather be on track in the feature, but I don't know, maybe looking at the chaos, is it better to sit back and laugh? I mean, what was it like for you trying to race into this thing at this wild Coliseum track?
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It's pretty fun to watch. So, if there's one race where, you're never okay with getting wrecked out, but, I'm having a pretty good time watching with my friends, and it's just tough out there. It's tough out there because the corners are so short. Straightaways are pretty long, so you get a good run, and then everybody just kind of funnels down into the corner. And there's a lot of accordion effect and that happens in the corner, and it's just difficult to judge sometimes. And then the cars, you make contact and they're sensitive and they spin out. And they're also a little bit wider than the cars we've been used to racing. So it's a new track and it's a new car for us. So everybody's just kind of trying to get used to it all at once.
Well, getting used to that, you're going to have to get used to a brand new car here, Ray, in 2022. This is the third iteration of a NASCAR Cup Series car that you've had to drive in this series, and it's the first change that's come in a very long time. What have been kind of your early impressions and perhaps a mindset going into a season where you've had staying power and found so much success in the series, but this is the first major shift in about a decade in terms of the car that we're using?
Yeah, I'm a big fan so far. Obviously, I like the power increase. I like the fact that there's less downforce, and specifically there's less side force. So the car is very unforgiving if you make a mistake in the corner, which I think is a really good thing for racing. It forces you to be really precise with your inputs, and there's penalties if you make a mistake, which past few years has not really been like that. So it has not been a very good past few years for me. So I'm looking forward to this car and see the new challenge that it brings. I think it's more of an old school type of car.
Well, I was about to follow up with that. A car that is a lot more difficult to drive. I would say you think that plays in your favor?
Yeah, I think, and it's not just the fact that it's difficult, it's that it's it may not be what some of these guys have gotten used to. There's a lot of new drivers in the series that just came in the last 2 or 3 years, and so they might have more of an adjustment to make than I did, who drove cars more similar to this before that. So I don't know. I'm enjoying driving it, and I think it's going to be it's going to provide for good racing.
Ray, we talk so much about, how competitive it is to stay at this series and how, every year basically a quarter of the field are rookies. Not only are you guys dealing with the new car this year, but also dealing with a couple of new tracks, right? Obviously the Clash here at the Coliseum. We're racing on dirt at Bristol. We're going to Gateway. We're going to Nashville Super Speedway. What are your thoughts on the 18 rounds that'll determine the champ this year?
Yeah, no, I like the schedule. It's very, very balanced overall. And, especially the playoff races. We go to Bristol, Talladega, Miami, and then ending at Phoenix. So, hopefully, the goal is to be in the playoffs and to make the championship 4, but that's way out ahead. First of all, we got to get off to a good start at Daytona in a couple weeks. And I know the 51 VRS team, we're back with Gibbs this year, so happy about that. And we're getting the racing bug is back in full force, and tonight really got it going again, even though I'm sitting here with you guys and I'd rather be out on track. But I'm looking forward to getting the season started off in a couple weeks.
We appreciate you spending some time and hanging out, Ray. The good news is the only race on the calendar that doesn't pay into the playoffs is this one. So get it out of the system. We'll catch you in 2 weeks at Daytona.
Thanks. See you guys.
Ray Alfalla, who will be competing for a 5th championship this year, the only multi-time champion in series history. You got to look on board. I think we're looking on for the back of Busa. You can see, in case you got any questions, it's E15 ethanol that powers these virtual eNASCAR Cup Series cars, and it's Garrett Maines making passes in them as he's able to drive up the inside of Busa, take over the number 12 spot, and out of nowhere, there goes low into Maines. Look out. They're really doing their best to tear up these fighter jet-inspired paint schemes, Blake, that iRacing put together for this Clash.
Well, they've put it together, and you could look right on your screen right there, NG, and then, of course, you can see the date right there, so a little bit of fine details being made in these cars. And by the way, speaking of the details, look at these beautiful race cars. Obviously, good for us to and everybody out there to learn the drivers, get a little more familiar with the teams, the manufacturers, the new number changes. But a brilliant job by our partner in Cisco's Garrett Musa for these brilliant paint schemes. Think it looks great with the new number placement. The manufacturers highlighted there on the side. These things are they're a sight to look at, and Cisco did a good job with it.
Cisco also pushed the buttons for us back at iRacing HQ. There's a huge team of people behind the scenes who go into making these events possible. From Cisco, the TD for Drew Adamson, our director, Joe McManus, Corey, Sean, everybody else at the office. We got Jay Kennedy, Tim Burns, Alex Horn on the cameras, Bo Albert, Tyler Maxon helping us out as well, Justin Prince, Ryan Bauer, Gary Weaver, Taylor Burris, Kenneth Bueno down on pit road. A huge team bringing this clash at the Coliseum to you and will be helping us all season long. We've talked a lot about Matt Busa tonight. There's a look on board with him. He right now is the last driver on the lead lap. Not anymore. There goes Mike Conti. Give him 2 seconds. He'll drop a lap down. 14 drivers still on the lead lap, Blake, as we close in on halfway in this feature and getting a little bit of rhythm in here on a green flag run.
Well, speaking of rhythm, I was just about to mention that Casey Kerwin in that 95 starting to look awfully sporty here later in the run. This is the longest green flag run we've had, and despite going through traffic, he's fast. And you know what, Evan? I could not imagine something more fitting than Casey Kerwin jumps into the 95, obviously after the movie Cars and Lightning McQueen, comes to a racetrack at a stadium in L.A., and could potentially have a chance to win this race. I couldn't think of anything more fitting than that as we ride on board with Mitchell DeYoung.
Yeah, a bit of a different look for Mitchell DeYoung this year, and I'll tell you what, we talk about that 95 machine being, basically synonymous with Casey at this point, right? Just the other day, Blake, as well, I had a chance to drive my personal car at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. I played the Cars soundtrack while I was going around. I mean, you have to. It's part of the NASCAR culture. So love all those references. And, we talk about Mitchell and some of the logistical challenges of these drivers racing overseas. Mitchell actually joining us, based out of Temecula, California originally, but racing from Germany. So he's not racing at 9 o'clock at night, right? He's not the only driver to have done this internationally, but I think that's one of the coolest things is this really is international reach here in this Coke Series.
Well, and it didn't faze him last year. He obviously went on to advance to the championship 4, has been successful in any iRacing venture that he's done. But that's a conversation I'll have to have with Mitchell one day about his sleep schedule and if he kind of adjusts it to be able kind of at peak performance when he comes to these. And there you see Casey Kerwin. And Evan, I met this guy last year at Daytona, but look at the laser focus. This is something that I've been told I do a lot when I drive. Look at the lack of blinking from Casey Kerwin. I haven't seen him blink once since we've cut to him, and I have the exact same problem. That is laser focus, and he has his eye sets on Michael Conti. He's continuing to close in. That last time they were dead even, but Kerwin making up some ground here as we are towards the second half of this one.
And a little bit of talking as well with the team on the radio. We alluded to it earlier, but almost everybody in the field here tonight has at least 2 other people on headset with them, a spotter, a crew chief, and anybody else affiliated with that team, letting them know what's going on throughout the field. A spotter is especially important here tonight. Of course, we talked about it's just tough to see around the corner if there's a hazard up the road. We've talked a lot about a team duos here tonight and haven't touched that much on the Jim Beaver Esports duos, but those 2 drivers are running nose to tail right now. Blake Reynolds ahead of his teammate Michael Guest. 2 cars in the top 10 in the clash. I think Jim would be real happy with what they've been doing so far.
Absolutely. Reynolds has kind of kept his head down, had a little bit of trouble there in the heats, but still got a solid run and has obviously been putting in some good work here. Michael Guest, a return driver for Jim Beaver Esports this season, and welcoming in a newcomer in Blake Reynolds, who went down to the Contender Series but found his way back into the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series yet again. So they have 2 drivers in the feature, Evan, and, for a lot of teams out there, they can't say that. So running up and solidly in the top 10, I think Jim Beaver, like you said, pretty pleased with his duo of drivers so far to start 2022.
And showing up good, right? I think the night started with the Clint Boyer cars getting together, so as long as the Jim Beaver cars don't get into each other, that's a step up. Brian LaPrade had a great start to the night, of course, was very good in the start of the heat race, got sent to the consolation, was able to race himself in, and is doing a good job of picking up spots as we go here in this feature. He started in 18th position. He is all the way up to 4th. So Breyer making big moves. Donovan Strauss behind him has also been working through the field.
He has been, as we're going to welcome in Zach Novak, who may be a little familiar with that driver that's running in 4th right now. Zach, I know you and Breyer are good buddies. How do you think it's faring there, the number 88 Chevrolet?
He's ripping, man. I'm proud of him. I know he put in a lot of effort to try and have a good showing in his first unofficial race. So, yeah, he's doing a really good job, both him and Donnie are.
Zach, the branding on the car is a little bit different this year. A new number, you're going to the 5. What's the story behind that? And then also now, Rise Esports, fueled by Sunoco. You're with the same great group that you guys have been with for the last several years. Just a little bit of a fresh look here in 2022.
Yeah, so the backstory behind the number 5 is, well, first off, with us not being Richmond Raceway Esports anymore, we had discussed moving on from the 90 just because that was a Richmond tied thing. So we had discussed it a little bit, and Ray Smith wanted to have a storyline behind the number, right? So if we were gonna switch, we didn't want to just switch for fun. We wanted to have a legit storyline behind it, and the 5 was the only thing that really made sense to me. Obviously Michael Conti drove for the Chaos Crew, which then turned into Richmond Raceway, which is now Rise Esports, and he was the number 5, and he was one of the pioneers, so to speak, of kind of this whole team thing that it ended up evolving into. So that was a big part of it, and then it's the 5th year of the team, Rise Esports, and then with some personal connection with me, my dad helped one of his friends in real life. He drove a late model, driving the number 5, and then my good buddy Anthony Alfredo also drove the number 5 in late models. That was I think he won his first championship or his first race, one or the other. But regardless, there's some good backstory to it, so that's pretty much it.
Well, caution flag out on the speedway. It is Dylan Duvall who is going to pull it behind the wall. I believe he's done for the evening. But Zach, continuing on here, obviously former champion in the series and haven't quite been up to form as far as making the playoffs. Do you view this kind of reset with this next-gen car as a way? We've talked to a lot of drivers who love this car and the difficulty it is to drive. Do you think that's kind of a new, fresh start for you to get back into that playoff form that we know you're very capable of?
Hopefully, we've kind of already started on working on the car for this year, and I definitely am confident. I think both driver wise and setup wise, we've kind of started to figure some stuff out. So, I'm really excited. It's just a fresh start. I feel like I really started to get a rhythm there at the end of last year. And then, kind of going into this, hopefully I can carry that momentum and maybe get some more momentum, with it being a new car and kind of everything new. So.
Green flag back in the air with 37 laps to go, and Michael Conti doing his best to defend the race lead. He's got his teammate coming to help as we see the 88 Mission to Brian LaPrade close it in as well. But, you look at Casey Kerwin, a bump and run for the race lead. The 95 car wants to get up there. Zach, what was it like etiquette-wise? We talk about the next-gen car. Obviously, that's going to be a learning process all night long. But this clash has been a learning process for you guys. Of course, we heard from Steve Myers earlier in the show that some of the Coke Series drivers were, integrally part of this design of this racetrack as NASCAR and iRacing work together. So not looking at big picture, looking small picture at this clash, at this track. What was that learning process like, and what are you looking forward to seeing on Sunday when the real deal happens?
It's much different than anything we've ever experienced. It's massive stock cars on a very, very small track. So the etiquette is maybe not the greatest, but it's kind of expected. Not everyone is going to be comfortable with, like I said, driving a big stock car around a small track like this. So that's kind of just something you get with it. But I think, in real life, it's going to put on a really exciting show. It's just something different, like I said, with the car being new, and then this track being new. It's just something different, and it's definitely refreshing for, the fan base to just get something new and try something new out.
We're looking forward to watching it all on Sunday. We're looking forward to watching the end of it here tonight, Zach. Appreciate you stopping by and chatting with us. Best of luck to you and the team in 2022. I'm sure we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
It's Zach Novak, 2019 Series champion of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. And not a lot of luck, seemingly, Blake, for the past champs here tonight. Talking with Zach, talking with Ray. They have not had the luck that they wanted. It looked like Keegan Leahy was going to have a good night. His feature race got derailed pretty quickly. So right now, Casey Kerwin, surviving another crazy restart, is some 28 laps away from winning this deal. He's got about an 0.8 second advantage over Mitchell DeYoung. The mid-pack right here where we're watching is where some of the best action is. You see that 15 Machida Blake Reynolds, he's 9th. So all of this just at the tail end of the top 10.
Well, and you think about, Evan, not so great for the former champions, and we had 6 of our rookies advance in this feature. And again, that's more than a majority of the rookies advancing through to a feature that only really took about half of the Coke Series field. So I think this is just continuing to play into the notion that with this next-gen car, there is a new crop of drivers that are ready to make their stand, as one car was parked there at pit road entry, and I don't know if he'll be able to get back turned around. And that's Caden Honeycutt, who's going to be able to get rolling just in front of your race leader in Casey Kerwin. But exactly that. Honeycutt with that rookie stripe will settle back in line further lap down. But I think that's the big change, the big storyline here is how these rookies have really shown up and are doing very well tonight.
Well, you mentioned earlier, right, that you felt this was the most competitive rookie class we've ever seen. I think I probably said that in 20. I probably said it in 19. I probably said it in 18, right? And I think that nothing exemplifies that better than the fact that the last 3 years, 2019 to 21, when we saw Novak, Ottinger, and Leahy win a championship, was only the second time we've had 3 consecutive first-time champions in series history. The only other time it happened was 2013 to 15 when we saw Tyler Hudson, Michael Conti, and Kenny Humpy do it. You also look back to the last 5 years combined, we've had 5 different champions over the course of the last 5 seasons. So nobody has a stranglehold. You certainly got your vets that I think, Blake, are always going to be in contention to get 3-4 wins a year, but there is no dominant driver. There is no dominant duo. Every single season, especially this year with the new car, is a new opportunity for somebody to claim their stake.
Absolutely. Here, as you can scan the QR code there. If you want to sign up for iRacing, the official simulation partner of NASCAR, you just take your phone out, and trust me, I've done it. It works, and it's very fast-esque. As if you want it for eNASCAR news and more information about how to get signed up for iRacing, just go ahead and scan the QR code that is on your screen. And Evan, you were alluding to it, that I think with all of these changes, you think about the parity we had last year, the amount of victories we saw. We had more winners than playoff drivers last year, and yet here we are. Next gen car promises more parity than what we had last year.
And if you want to keep up, as you mentioned, with everything all season long on the schedule, the standings, and information on how to qualify into this eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, you can find all of that online at iRacing.com/eNASCAR. But the first step on that ladder is to sign up today and start your sim racing career. It is 40% off all new iRacing memberships. Jump on, download the content, race a NASCAR Cup car at a laser-scanned replica of the LA Memorial Coliseum track in no more than an hour. iRacing.com for more information on how to start your iRacing career today. So a couple of those junior motorsports cars racing in and around each other. Mike Conti sits 5th right now. This is the big pack from Donovan Strauss on back. Strauss in 4th, Conti 5th, Ottinger 6th, Lowe 7th, and Reynolds 8th. They're all stacked up here. kind of waiting to see if there's one final ball that's going to drop in this race. There's less than 12 laps to go now in this race, and like these drivers are racing not only for bragging rights but for some prizes as well. The feature race winner here tonight will walk away with a family 4-pack of tickets and pit passes to a NASCAR Cup Series race of their choice this year, plus $250 in cash. That's not a bad haul before the season even really starts.
No, absolutely not. You get to take the whole family out. I don't think you'd be able to fly Casey Kerwin out of Charlotte to L.A. in time with that promotional deal, as he's obviously very busy right now, still trying to get that done. Still a lot can happen in the last 10 laps, but I mean, $250, I'd say that's a pretty good night to drive a virtual race car. And you see, actually, look at Casey right there. So I didn't think we would see it, but you're going to see it on the straightaway right here. He's actually shifting on the straightaway, and I don't think anybody else is doing that. So that might be the advantage that Casey has, because I've been listening to these guys, and you see it's very brief, and the amount of execution that requires is pretty substantial. So Casey not phased at all by this new sequential shifting in this car, as he is making it look easy out there in front, continuing to build on that lead.
Well, the one thing I love, Blake, is on iRacing, right? Obviously, these new next-gen cars are sequential shifters. He could use anything, right? He could use paddles. He's got a 6-speed there as well, but it looks like he actually has a sequential shifter as well. So he's got basically exactly what the NASCAR Cup drivers are going to be using this year. So maybe Casey Kerwin shifting. Maybe we might see some shifted on Sunday night for the Clash. Again, that'll be at 6 p.m. Eastern time on Fox this upcoming Sunday. Inside, though, of 10 laps to go, Casey Kerwin trying to stay on cruise control, but who's going to give here? Reynolds is 7th, Conti still in 8th, Guest in 9th, but all over the bumper. Is there one more pass left in the bag? Guest looking low into 3. Won't happen that time. Now 4 laps to go.
And Michael Guest doing a solid job here, moving his way up through the field. And we'll give a little bit of a bumper to Conti, who I think has just lost the rear end of that race car, and they're making doors as they work into 3 and 4. Guest and Conti once again making contact, but you look forward here, more yellow stripes at the front of the field. You see Briar LaPrade, you have Donovan Strauss. We touched a little bit on his maturity earlier and showing that he's going to show up here at Evan. I'm going to make a bold prediction. I think Donovan Strauss is a playoff driver at worst, maybe even a champion this year, despite his young age.
He's been so impressive for William Esports so far this year, but up at the front of the field, Casey Kerwin sees the white flag. 1 lap to go here from the LA Coliseum. Wasn't the prettiest, but in the end, he'll lead 37 to the checkered flag. Casey Kerwin wins the Clash at the Coliseum with a fist pump to bout. He's hyped about it and opens 2022 in victory lane.
Well, and Casey Kerwin getting it done. I was wondering if he was going to, pull over and maybe finish 3rd. It seems like that's happened in LA with the 95 before, but nevertheless, I mean, Kerwin just had nobody who was going to challenge him.
And as he celebrates on the front straightaway, this winning moment is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. Casey Kerwin, the first NASCAR-sanctioned race winner in the history of the LA Coliseum. He wins this 2022 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series season opener. I thought he was going to go all the way around, but the engine didn't make it. He tried all the way to 2, wasn't able to do the burnout all the way around. He'll coast it back to the front straightaway. What a drive by Casey Kerwin, and what a way for XSET to rep here in the unofficial season opener. And you can see the calm after the storm, the smoke still slowly rising off of the asphalt from the burnout. Casey Kerwin parks it on the checkered flag at the front line as your race winner. So let's dial him up on the radio, Blake. You've got our race winner.
Rep the set is what they say, and Casey Kerwin, number change, and you're undefeated in that 95. How does it feel to come out the first official NASCAR sanctioned winner at the LA Coliseum? How does that sound, Casey?
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I wanted to win this race so badly. It was I don't know why. Ever since the idea of this racetrack being a thing, I loved the idea. I loved it when I got to drive it. and I wanted to win this race so badly, and I loved it so much. I'm going to LA to the Clash this weekend. So
really, now of course we got to ask you, if you're heading out to LA, you do know as the winner of this race, you get a family 4-pack, you get $250 cash. Are the tickets already bought, and maybe you're going to use that a little bit later on in the schedule?
Yeah, I was thinking maybe Daytona 500 now. I just got back from Daytona yesterday from the Rolex, which was awesome. So I guess we might need to be making a trip back to Daytona in a couple weeks. But yeah, it's I want to win this race so badly. I can't believe it. We changed the number 95. The Lightning McQueen vibes carried us, red rims and all. And that's the sole reason we won. You know, this is kind of like the Cars movie when they ran the Los Angeles Coliseum there. So I think it's just fitting.
We were making some allusions to it all night long. Well, Casey, thank you so much. Congratulations. And, of course, good luck when we start paying out the points here in just a couple of weeks at Daytona.
Yes, thanks, guys. Thanks to XSET again for having me again this year. It's hopefully going to be another great year. And thanks to everyone for putting this on, NASCAR. Thanks so much for doing this. I love it. And, yeah. It's hopefully be a good year. Thanks, guys.
Certainly a fun time for Casey Kerwin. He comes home your winner tonight. And coming back in second, it was Alan Cavana's pick. He was just one spot off right there, and that is Mitchell DeYoung, picking up right where he left off of his success in 2021. Mitchell, come up a little bit short, but how was it to run out there at the Coliseum tonight? Make sure you got to unmute yourself. There we go. Yeah, there we go, good. Mitchell. All right, we got you now.
It was a wild race. To be honest, the main cleaned up a lot better than I thought it would. And yeah, it was a lot of fun, but this is such a tough track. Didn't expect this at all. For sure, it was a great first outing again with 2311 for this year. Big shout out to them for having me back alongside Keegan again. A big shame that he couldn't have finish up here as well because he was running really well. But yeah, no, just survived the carnage and see where we end up. We had the lead for like a corner, I think, maybe twice. And yeah, we just tried to survive. So it was good fun.
It certainly was, but showing a lot of the same characteristics that led to your championship run last year, qualifying well, running up front. Is that kind of the same formula as you try to approach and recreate an opportunity to win a championship this year in 2022?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think we had a lot of good building blocks from last year. And, you know, the goal is just to cut out a lot of the mistakes that I had last year in certain races that costed me a lot of points and whatnot, and just fine tune my driving a bit. And, you know, hopefully we have the whole package. Hopefully we make it to the Final Four again. That would be really cool. And yeah, you know, it's up in the air. So you see how wild these races are, and you just have to be there, right place at the right time. So, you know, we'll see how it goes.
Absolutely. And just one more before we let you go here. Somebody who is so accomplished in so many different vehicles, whether in the real world or in the sim world, how has the adaptation been for you to this next gen car?
To be honest, I haven't driven it much at all outside of this.
Really?
So just learning it right now, it is so different. Just kind of the way you do things, like the technique and stuff with inputs and whatnot. It's, I think, going to be interesting to see how everyone stacks up, because I think it's a whole new platform, new learning curve for everyone. And, you know, we'll see who figures it out the best. I'm hoping I'm one of them, but you never know when someone might have something a little bit special in the early round. So we'll see.
Well, all right, Mitchell, good to catch up with you. And again, get some sleep. It's pretty late there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about 5 a.m. right now. So time for breakfast and bed.
All right. Well, we'll let you get to it. Mitchell, thank you for talking to us. Congratulations on finishing second tonight. And our lone rookie on the podium, Briar LaPrade, making a great debut for Junior Motorsports. Briar, I know I was able to race with you coming up. How does it feel to come out here, face a little adversity early, but to be able to rebound and perform as well as you did tonight?
Yeah, that was a roller coaster of emotions there. We were sitting pretty in P4, and Garrett Lowe was just ripping there at the end of Heat 1, and deservingly so, got around me. You know, it's fair game here at the Coliseum. I can guarantee you're going to see that in real life. Just boot scoot and boogie, and yeah, just ended up starting P1 for the LCQ, and then we got Duval getting around me there. It was back and forth on the emotions. I knew I could try and do somewhat decent. But yeah, we started 18th there in the feature and somehow climbed our way to third with all the chaos going around us. Do want to apologize to Duval in the feature race. I accidentally locked up, got into his left rear, so sorry to him, affecting his race there. But yeah, a rookie P3. Talk about a confidence booster. It feels good to get third at this tiny little track. But yeah, confidence booster for sure.
A big confidence booster. And what has been kind of your approach as one of the rookies in this series? We talk about we're going to hype up this rookie class all season long because of the amount of talent that seems all of you possess. What are kind of your realistic expectations going? Are we talking top 20? Are we talking playoffs, or maybe even a title at the end of this thing?
Well, definitely not a title. I fully am prepared, for getting beat up on by the veterans in this series, but I didn't expect to go out and finish third. But yeah, I would say try and go for Rookie of the Year title. If not, just at least put ourselves top 20 to get back in the series this year. It'd be great. Just keep this going. Honestly, I hope to stay in the series for a long time. But yeah, I just hopefully Rookie of the Year, if not top 20 for sure. That's my goals for this year.
Well, looking forward and humble as always, Briar. Congratulations on the podium and good luck when we go to Daytona here in just a couple of weeks.
Absolutely.
That's our top 3 finishers. A big thanks to all of them for stopping by and chatting with us. Briar LaPratt in third, Mitchell DeYoung in second, and Casey Kerwin, your race winner here tonight. Let's take a look back now at our Coca-Cola move of the race, and we talked about all of the chaos. Casey Kerwin led the last 37, and this was the attempt by Michael Conti to get underneath, had the positioning, looked like it was all gone, but checked it up, tucked back in line to blanket. He wasn't going to let the 8 car get away.
No, he certainly wasn't. You can see Kerwin always trying to race clean, but you got to use just a little bit here, apply the pressure, lock up out of Michael Conti. That's a veteran move, and that's how you're going to do it here, about as clean as you can look for. And after that, looks at him side by side behind him, and Casey Kerwin never looked back after that.
To go on to lead it to the end of this one and take home the win. It doesn't count towards the career stats. I get that, but Casey Kerwin, I talk about, what we mentioned earlier tonight, Blake, how there's so many rookies every year that a vet no longer means a guy that's been in this for 6-7 years, right? You get to year 3, you get to year 4, you're basically a veteran, and a lot of veteran driving right there out of Casey Kerwin. Doesn't count for a ton, maybe means an extra trip to Daytona Beach for the Daytona 500 for our race winner, but other than that, it just feels good, right? You're not leaving here with a sour taste in your mouth like some guys are. You get the win, you're feeling good, and now you can get focused on what's really important, of course, Daytona coming up in 2 weeks.
Well, and I would say for some of the drivers who struggled, Evan, I don't really even think they leave that much with a sour taste in their mouths. They knew it was going to be chaotic here, and they get to just chalk it up as well. The Coliseum bit us, and this is what we get to look forward to here in a couple of weeks when, like you said, the points are on the line at Daytona.
Brand new car. We go back to where we've always started the year, at the virtual Daytona International Speedway. And Blake, this new car has provided another challenge for these drivers to figure out how they draft, and going to be a great preview to the Great American Race.
It certainly has, and I think, I even know, Evan, I've talked to a couple of these guys. They were watching the test that took place, that next-gen test that took place a couple of weeks ago at Daytona for kind of tipping points. Again, so much of the development of this car has been hand-in-hand with iRacing's development, so many characteristics with the aerodynamics, with the drafting, are so close to real life that I know drivers who watched that test and are going to use that to hopefully learn something for when we go there in 2 weeks.
Been a fun night in Los Angeles, but it gets real when we come back in 2 weeks' time. Until next time, though, on behalf of our entire team at iRacing, for Brandon Cattell, Alan Cavana, Camille Salazar-Hadaway, and our Countdown to Green crew, and for your broadcast team upstairs tonight. For James Pike on pit road, for Blake McCandless, and myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate Casey Kerwin as your Clash champion here in LA. It gets real, though, in 2 weeks' time on Tuesday, February the 15th, from the virtual Daytona International Speedway. We'll catch you as we kick off the 13th season of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series.